Welcome to the channel, welcome to the channel, welcome to the channel, yeah. Greetings and salutations. I am in my backyard. I'm just holding my phone with my hand. I don't feel like bringing out my whole setup, so this is what you get. I thought I'd do kind of a quick July wrap-up. Books I read, all that jazz. It's not going to be too involved, I'm not gonna lie, because I have a whole bunch. I did a couple of different vlogs which I talked about most of the books I read in detail. I did a July Noir vlog. I did like a vacation vlog where I read like I think 6 out of the 9 books I read. So I'm just gonna kind of go over some stats and just in general, here's what I read. Let's just do the rundown. So, I'm a huge stats nerd, like tracking my stats. I like to know how many books I'm reading, the genres, all that. So I read 9 books, which were 3,286 pages. I wrote everything down on a piece of paper, so if I'm looking down, that's why. My main genres, which were not surprising, was LGBT, romance, and horror, which is because I read for July Noir, which is reading crime fiction. So, my moods, and I get a lot of my stats from Storygraph, if you're wondering. And I'll tag my books. I have different tags because I like to track like how disability and how many sapphic books and all the different things. I have so many different categories. If you want me to go do a video like explaining exactly how I categorize all my books, I know some people have spreadsheets, but I just use Storygraph because I just like to be really intentional with my reading. So Storygraph says that my moods were dark, tense, and mysterious. And then I have tags, and my highest tag for this month was disability, because I also read for the disability readathon hosted by Chronically Bookish. I read a lot of books with like disability rep because I have a whole bunch of disability, like I would say invisible disabilities. And I like reading stuff with like mental health rep and stuff. And then people of color, because I track how many books I read by people of color. Let's see. So I read, of the 9 books I read, 6 were adult, 1 was YA, and 2 were middle grade. And I read YA middle grade because that was the category I chose, the location I chose for July Noir, which was Ruby's Crew, which is YA middle grade, so that makes sense. The readathons that I participated in this month were Disability, hosted by Chronically Bookish, July Noir, hosted by Bree over at Lockbooktician, and then Herkid 3.0 started. And I did do a video of like my TBR for August, but I did kind of just plug in some of the books that I read in July that just happened to cover the prompts, because as much as I want to be able to plan for Herkid, I'm a mood reader, so that's going to be really hard for me to do. So if I happen to get some prompts by accident, so be it. So out of the there are 25 prompts overall, but each prompt has like how many books that you have to read for each one. So I did the books and you can use one book for 2 prompts. So out of the books I read, I was able to get like 12 things knocked off, but only 1 complete prompt, because within the 25 prompts there are like subcategories, like how many you have to read in that prompt to get the prompt. So like the prompt that I completed was cover styles. So you had to read four books with 4 different cover types. So I think the ones that I kind of did, even though I don't know if they're official cover types, but like a drawn character, person on the cover, minimalistic, I think I did drawn but like realistic, because like there's difference between like drawn realistic to look like a real person versus kind of stylized cartoonish, so I separated those two. And then I think I used like house on the cover, like buildings, like no people, and I counted that as like a cover type. Anyway, a lot of these are open to interpretation, don't come for me. So yeah, so one out of 25 prompts done for Herkid, and I am working on another one, but like I said, we might just get a lot of those prompts by accident. And then I'm just going to do like a quick overview of some of the books I read. I'm not really going to go too into detail because I did not have a good reading month. I'm not going to lie to you. I don't really rate my books anymore, but I go on vibes and feelings, and I wasn't feeling it at all. So I read a book by one of my favorite authors, E.M. Lindsay, called Don't Fall, and it's a male-male romance. It was okay. I do like her style of writing. She usually always has disability rep. I read this, and there's disability rep in it, and I think it's like a brother's, like a best friend's brother type situation. I think one's a firefighter, and the other one went through some stuff and is on disability and trying to figure out like what he wants to do with his life. He just got divorced, has a chronic illness, and they fall in love, of course, but there's like crows in it, because like the firefighter has like pet crows, and the pet crows keep getting into the guy's trash, and they happen to be neighbors, so it's like enemies to lovers, sort of forced proximity, taboo, because it's brother's best friend. It was just fine. It wasn't anything mind-blowing. I always enjoy her writing. I had a good time. I'll read everything that E.M. Lindsay writes. So there's something in the water. This was another male. This was, I would say, dark romance, because one of the main characters is a serial killer. But it's very like, and you know, so another one for disability, there's neurodivergent rep. It is kind of a captive situation, because one of the main characters sees the guy kill somebody, and so it's like but this one was interesting because it's like both the main characters have like a hyper fixation on like aquatic animals, so there was like a lot of science about aquatic animals. And now thinking about it, I could probably use that book for Herkid, for the animal prompt. And you could use it for like a Pokemon prompt if you were doing water type. We'll see. That's fine. Again, just okay. And dark romance for me is always kind of hit or miss, because you're like, girl, you wouldn't want that in real life. But okay. And then the next three I read for July Noir, and I feel like I don't really want to go over those too much because you can go watch my vlog. But I read Sundown Girls, which is about a girl who lives in a sundown town, trying to figure out where all the missing girls are going. And spoiler alert, it actually wasn't racism. So, surprise. The Creeping of Dogwood House is a middle grade by Eden Royce, and I've read from her before, and I actually do really love her writing. She adds a lot of like root work and like Gullah Geechee history, and I really enjoy it, like hoodoo type stuff. I really, really enjoy all that kind of history, black history. It's great. He gets adopted because his mom dies. He gets adopted by his estranged auntie, and they go back to their ancestral home, and it's haunted by a hair demon. Girl from the Ashes is another middle grade. It's very kind of straightforward. There's a ghost. She's got unfinished business. 2 kids try to figure out why she keeps setting fires to everything. And I think, realistically, I think that one of the main characters in this book has ADHD. But it's also talking about, like, how we treat our black boys and how society treats black boys. Like, this little boy was like 11, but because he went through puberty and got really tall, everybody kind of expected him to be aggressive or whatever. And there's a beautiful friendship in that book that I really enjoyed. But also just, whenever I read middle grade, I always have to kind of think of, like, this wasn't written for me in mind. So any criticism I have of it has to kind of not be a criticism, because middle grade is written for middle grade, like junior high. So a lot of my criticism was like, it's for 12-year-olds. I read another male romance called Shelved Hearts, and I feel like this one was dealing with a lot of heavy things. One of the main characters was getting out of, like, an abusive relationship, and he falls in love, and there's a lot of, like, this book is not for the faint of heart. If you have any kind of depression, suicidal ideation, it's very heavy. It's not like your standard rom-com. And I do think it's another kind of best friend's brother, move in with my brother because he's having a hard time. He's got social anxiety and PTSD because of his abusive partner, and they kind of navigate that. But yeah, very heavy hitting, so don't go in if you read Shelved Hearts, do not go into it expecting, like, giggles and kicking your feet. I mean, there's romance, but it's definitely heavy for sure. Then I read How to Sell a Haunted House. Sorry. It's the last week of summer vacation, y'all, and my children keep interrupting me, but I'm ready. I'm ready for school to start. Let me just say that. I'll tell you that for free. Anyway, what were we talking about? How to Sell a Haunted House by Grady Hendrix. I read this in my vacation vlog. I was in South Carolina, so I was reading books set in South Carolina. I know Grady Hendrix is, like, one of the popular writers nowadays, but there's a reason why I don't read books by a certain demographic. Wink. But this one was horror. It was about ghosts, puppets, grief, family relationships. It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't for me. Like, I'm not, like, scrambling to go read his backlist. But dolls are creepy, okay? I've always thought dolls were creepy, so it definitely covered that. I read another book called A Promise of Forever, which was another male romance, but this was like Omegaverse. But the reason why I read this is because within the male sphere, which I could make a whole video about this, talking about, you know, queer books written by certain people for certain people, if you know what I'm saying, which gets into, like, fetishization and all that. The reason why I wanted to pick this one was because we don't really get a lot of queer stories written where the main characters are people of color. Like, we have own voices, but, like, in the standard kind of genre of male romance, it's very, like, copy and paste. And not even just male romance, any romance of any kind. Because the ideal, you go into romance for the fantasy of it. Being attracted to the characters and people. It's very white-centric, let me just say that. So I read A Promise of Forever because it has a black love interest and the other love interest I think is Hispanic. So especially in like Omegaverse, which I'm not going to keep explaining to y'all what Omegaverse is. Look it up. I just really wanted that representation. It wasn't necessarily my favorite book ever. It was mid. I enjoyed it. I finished it. I did feel like the character development wasn't 100% there. We didn't really get to know. We got to know one of the characters more than the other one, and I didn't like that. And it had like a twist on Omegaverse, which I liked because a lot of them are just kind of same. So I enjoyed it because of the diversity it had, but not necessarily. But it wasn't the greatest thing I've ever read in my life. And then my favorite book for the month, though, this is my favorite, and usually I'll have like at least one favorite of the month, but it's not necessarily like a yearly favorite. So like I have favorites like that are favorites of the year, and those aren't necessarily like, oh, the books that I loved each month, if that makes sense. This one I was kind of picking the best of the mediocre. And it was like an anticipated read, and that was The Case of Elmwood Ranch, which I was really excited for this one, probably for the same reasons as the last book, was because it was a sapphic romance between two so it's bi for bi, sapphic, black women. And you don't get that a lot. It's in sapphic stories. You get a lot of one demographic. So and it was kind of paranormal, and there was like a disability rep that I didn't know was in there because one of the characters is diabetic. But safe to say, there's a ranch, and one of the characters is like a skeptic. She doesn't believe in paranormal stuff, but her brother, lots of stuff is happening they just bought this ranch. She wants to do like therapy, horse stuff, has stables and everything, and lots of stuff keeps happening, like horrible stuff. People are getting hurt. It's a bad time. And her brother is like, hey, go talk to this famous paranormal investigator and get her here to help, because we can't have people keep getting hurt. Like, we used all our money to buy this ranch. Like, go do it. I know you don't believe in it, but tough. And so she goes, and she gets her to come, and there's a lot of stuff, so I really enjoyed this. I liked the representation, because it's not enemies to lovers, but like, oh, one's a skeptic and one's believes in paranormal stuff. And so it was definitely more in the paranormal romance than I'm used to from this writer, because I like this writer's writing. It was by Deanna Gray. And she wrote one of my other favorite books of all time, Outdrawn. So it was very kind of different from what she normally writes, but it wasn't like it wasn't super magic paranormal. It was very like paranormal light. But I wasn't expecting it. But I will say that my only complaint about the book is, for me, their romance didn't make sense to me. Besides, like, they were attracted to each other, but they definitely had very different life goals and lifestyles and what they wanted out of life. Like, the paranormal girl traveled the world to do her job. The other girl who had the ranch was very like, I'm putting down roots. I want to be settled. And you do get in the book, like, the paranormal investigator girl is like burnt out and she wants to do something different. But it was very much, it seemed to not make sense once they, like, because, like, the attraction was there. So I got that, but like I'm gonna give up my whole life for this woman I just met. Even though they went through like an intense experience, there were demons, there was possession and ghosts and things like that, but their relationship didn't make any sense, even though I enjoyed the romance. I enjoyed them getting together, but for me, a lot of times, at the end of a romance, you're like, okay, that's the end. But a lot of times I'm like, okay, outside of this one experience, would these people still be together afterwards? Like, I just don't think they were that compatible. But I do enjoy the representation we got, and the story was good, and it was written well. So, but those are the books I read. Those are kind of some of the things that I kind of did. Watch the vlogs if you want like super in-depth to some of those books, and I will see you in the next one, guys. Bye.